Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of BellyUpSports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
NWSL. So, it has been announced that the Players Association for the NWSL has agreed on a new CBA. If you guys know what CBA is, it's a collective bargaining agreement. It's essentially a contract, a form of terms that both the players and the owners agree on to how business is going to be conducted in the league. And some of the key things that was the two big talking points was, one, establishing a free agency, which, I mean, it may sound crazy to say that, but obviously in the world of soccer, football, players, if you're out of contract, can't, obviously all they have to do is negotiate with the team and they move on from there. But I guess in the NWSL, it's done a little bit differently, which I like I said, I'm not really too familiar with NWSL and how they do things with their free agency, but apparently that was something that needed to be established. And the big one was the removing of the NWSL draft, which now makes them the first American league to do so. So for people that don't necessarily understand American sports, at least the player pathway for American sports, not soccer. So NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB. I think that's all of them. But in every professional sports league, the pathway to pro is minus baseball, but high school, you play your sport in high school. You play really good at your sport. If you're a standout athlete in your high school, you'll get recognized by a college or university. That college or university would offer you a scholarship to play, or you would go play college sport in your sport. You stand out in that sport, you would then be eligible to be drafted by the professional league. So that is essentially the player pathway: is high school, college, get drafted to the professional leagues. And I say baseball, MLB is a little bit different because you can be drafted out of high school. So that's the only reason why I said it's a little bit different. But like at the end of it all, if you're a standout athlete, you're eligible for that league's draft and you get drafted. And I mean, not everybody gets drafted. You also have undrafted free agents. In baseball, obviously they sign players from outside the U.S., like going to Cuba, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Colombia. So those are also other facets. But at least if you live in America, that is the pathway to becoming a professional athlete. And I mean, I know in the NBA they also draft players that play internationally. So I'm not trying to really break into all that, but that's how most leagues do it. And in most sports, obviously depending on the round you're in dictates how much you're going to get paid. Also, how high you get drafted also could dictate how safe you are from keeping getting a spot on the team. So, for instance, in the NFL, even though you got drafted, I would say probably like fifth to seventh round, even fourth round sometimes, you could still get cut from the team. Your contract the contract that you agree on is usually not that big. It's not a lot of money, so it doesn't necessarily hurt the team. But I don't think I don't remember what the terms are. I don't know if it's like guaranteed you're going to make that or what. But that's kind of how the nature of the business goes. And even in MLB, just because you were drafted in the first round doesn't mean you're going to become a professional athlete. MLB is a little bit bigger on that. NBA draft, I think now more and more you're starting to see like the draft picks actually playing, but from when I remember, I didn't really see that many. But but the fact that the NWSL decided to remove the draft, I think it is an interesting thing for me because um I never really complained too much of the NWSL draft. I didn't really complain too much about women's college soccer. And the reason why was because you have a large player pool in women's soccer, as far as college. And, obviously because almost every college has a women's soccer team. And that just goes back to Title IX. Um, and I think you know, I thought the draft was a good resource, but and then I guess if you want to just flip it over to the MLS, because I'm also someone that feels that the MLS should not have a draft, and it's because at least I feel the player pool of college soccer players are smaller versus women's soccer, and I think that's honestly pretty spot on. Um, so and it's also for me harder because obviously there's still multiple player pathways in MLS. There's still, I mean, the player pathway, there is still another option for player pathway, and I feel would be a cheaper option with player pathway, which is obviously what they have now with MLS Next Pro, and now, obviously that player pathway to go professional. I think that being utilized, I think, is a good thing. Where now I see men college soccer as, yes, it's a good resource to go find players because I mean I think kind of going into when we got to interview Majid Marana, him talking about having to work on the physicality side as a defender helped him to go play, had helped him to go to college soccer to gain that physicality. So when he did go back to the pros, when he did go pro, he was prepared for that level of physicality. And so I think that for me, I don't see the value of the MLS draft. And also, mind you, I believe Majid wasn't drafted. He just got signed to the Houston Dynamo. So I think that is an important thing to think about. Like these guys, you don't necessarily have to draft guys that are going to play for you. So in the NWSL, I mean, I felt like a lot of draft picks do play a lot and become impactful players. Just thinking about the Houston Dash alone, Rachel Daly was a name that I think of. Obviously, she's a well-loved player for the Houston Dash, obviously now playing overseas in England. Jane Campbell, captain of the team, well, starting goalkeeper for the Dash, was drafted. Khalil Ohai, one of the first draft picks for the Dash, and obviously um, played and was impactful immediately. And I know that there's those overseas signings that they do, and I kind of agree to that part of maybe you don't necessarily have to draft, get players through the draft, like, and I think that's why they're establishing the free agency to allow themselves to go after the women's Super League, I believe is what they call it. It's called in England, in the UK. And so I think as you establish a free agency, you remove the draft. So now these players that play college soccer, once they're finished, they can go out, you still have the scout. Scouting is still going to be a necessity. You're still going to watch these college games to find players. And I think that this is kind of what I'm thinking is happening is they are wanting more power to the players because when you get drafted to a team, maybe you don't like the team you're getting drafted to. Maybe you don't like the city you're getting drafted to. Um, Whereas maybe now, let's use Trinity Rodman as an example. Obviously, she got drafted to the Washington Spirit, and she is where she is now, where NWSL champion, gold medal winner. Um, but let's just say that she didn't. They didn't have the draft. Who's to say where she would have gone? You know, and I mean, also that means they can also negotiate how much they're going to make. If you're a highly touted soccer player from college, you're probably going to make you're going to get a substantial pay increase versus maybe a player that wasn't necessarily a standout, but has some qualities that the team likes. Um, but I think that's the good thing now because players now have a better control of their worth in the free agency, and I think that is an interesting piece to it. I think also removing the expansion draft, um, having to tell players like, "Hey, we're protecting you, but you guys, if you get picked, I don't know what to do with you." It's kind of because, and I kind of get what they're going with here because you have this, you don't protect a certain player, this player, which I mean, the pay gap between NWSL and MLS, I'm not going to get into it, but I assume MLS makes more. Um, these players have to just pack everything and move to this. If they get selected in the expansion draft, pack everything and then move to that new city. Some may not necessarily have the financial resources to do so. And so, and I don't know if clubs help cover moves or anything like that. I don't know any of those things, but I'm just saying from that perspective, at least from my perspective of not knowing much, is that it can be stressful. And so I mean removing the entry and expansion draft, one, players don't have to have like these out of nowhere moves. Two, the players that are coming out of college now have a little bit more control of where they want to go and how much they're going to make as they start their professional careers. And then obviously free agency for all. So I think that's a really smart play by the NWSL. Guaranteed contracts, and I think that is where is something that a lot of not all professional leagues in America are aiming to do is trying to get more guaranteed contracts because, for instance, in the NFL, I believe that there's some contracts are set up where certain years aren't guaranteed. Like that essentially means that team could just cut them right then and there, especially if they're not necessarily as contributing as they were hoping to be. So I think that that is a good incentive, because not only do players now, hey, I'm making what I'm supposed to be making this year, but now I think for the team's sake, this is where we cannot miss. We can't miss on signing these players. This player has to be some either impactful or a solid piece to our cog to the important yeah, trying to stop finding words. Is a crucial cog to the machine that is our team. And I think that making sure taking care of the players I think is important. No trades without players' consent. Once again, kind of similar to the expansion draft. This player is living, has bought a home, has a family, their kids go to school, and all of a sudden, like, hey, we just decided to trade you, uh, all the way fucking north, different school system, different, all that stuff. So I think adding that the player must consent to a trade um, is a good thing because now, uh, you know, general managers can't necessarily just start wheeling and dealing like it's nothing. They have to consider the player now when they do these trades. And I think once again, power to the players. And I think that's a good thing. Workload management, game frequency, travel conditions, and time off. Basically, essentially what that is just don't give us too many fucking games in a week, which I think that's something that I think all soccer players have been speaking on. Travel conditions. Now the league the teams need to find a way to charter these players better. And I think that honestly, rightfully so. So I think that's a really good one. Time off. I mean, seasons are long, man. The seasons are fucking long, and I think making sure that these players are able to uh just recover right, and then secondly, I mean, get themselves in the right headspace. And I think that taking time off is always crucial. Not only just in sports, but just in life in general, man. Like sometimes you just need time off. You need a break. You need to be able to just kick back and just relax, watch a Netflix series, something like that. So I think, and obviously that's not what they're doing, but I'm just saying, able to just have a period where you could just relax and not have pressure, which is what a season is going to be. It's pressure, right? If your team's not performing, you're putting pressure on yourself to win matches so you can make the playoffs. If you're in playoffs, you're obviously it's win or go home, things like that. And I think that that's a important piece. And then revenue sharing. Revenue sharing, the salary cap will now be linked with revenue sharing. So meaning, uh, if the and I this is one of those things where I think um the players know that, hey, we got to work our asses off now, because the revenue sharing, while yes, it involves the league, but if the league isn't watchable, the revenue is going to drop. So this is now where we got to put in our best product out, get that revenue up high, because that's going to impact how much we make. I believe that there is a base minimum, but obviously meaning that they still got to go and get their money, make sure you give the fans their money's worth. So I think that that is a one of those where they're uh betting on themselves, and I think I like that about the player that the players are doing that, is that we're betting on ourselves. We're gonna go out there and give you guys a solid winning product, and we want that to be reflected on our salary cap. So I think that that is really cool that the players are willing to do that. Um, Aside from the CBA, man, I think that this is a really solid. I think these are solid things to go after. I don't think that I kind of wish the MLS would do something like this because, like I said, I'm not a proponent for the draft. I do want to see college players play professionally. I just want them to go somewhere where they're going to play because I've argued multiple times that the MLS draft, most of these guys don't necessarily play. Um, and I mean, and it's for a lot of factors, and obviously the other player pathway that they have. Also, I think the NWSL doing this, they're gonna have to develop an academy system. I think so, and I hope so. I hope to see a Dash Academy. I hope to see a Washington Spirit Academy. I think that that's an important next step as well. I mean, I know college soccer is a great resource right now, but I think being able to develop academy players is going to help out these NWSL leagues, especially when you have a local kid playing. And I think there is some of these like NWSL teams that do have an academy, but not all of them do. And I think that needs to be also utilized as well. But all in all, man, I applaud the Players Association for the NWSL for getting this the CBA done. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how this works, see how it all gets put into work this coming season, and hopefully we can, you know, see this league get better. Because I mean, USL is also getting into the women's league as well. They also got a women's league now, so they have a competitor now. So I think that doing this can help incentivize players to go to the NWSL versus the USL Women's League. So I think that this is a way to entice players more so. But yeah, good. I say good shot for them.